Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Hey kids, it's Monday, it's New Model Day, and it's also, we're the first week into, actually we're quite a ways into October, but we're into spooky season. And having just finished up that big alien attacker, I wanted to do something small, something that was a figure, something that, no decals, it's still going to be a fun painting experience, but definitely something easier to handle, something that all fits on one desktop. And I've opted to do the Moebius build of the Invisible Man. For one good reason: you don't have to paint the eyes. I wasn't quite up to another challenge of painting eyes this week, so luckily there are no eyes. This is the Billy Idol eyes without, or face without an eyes. I guess it's the opposite of the Billy Idol song. But we're going to do the Invisible Man. Now, the Invisible Man's got a lot of colors and textures and finishes in it. It's got a lot of accoutrement around it. It's not only just him, but it's like a whole diorama-ish scene. But even when that's all said and done, it doesn't take up a tremendous amount of shelf space, which is key. So let's meet the parts, shall we? And here are the parts. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 big bags of parts. And we've got, as I said, we've got set decoration and parts of him and lab parts. Got a lot of clear sprue here to do the bottles and flasks and other greeblies that you would fill up in a mad scientist lab with. And we're probably going to be using the ultraviolet UV resin glue for those. And then we've got, in this bag, we've got tables, chairs, a floor with a rug. The rug itself might be a fun painting experience right there. But the rug, again, we've got more lab equipment and a bookcase. And then in this one, we've got him. We've got the actual scientist. We've got pants and we've got a coat. He's very formally dressed for a mad scientist. And then we've got, in this case, we've got the books. We've got more parts for him. We've got the aforementioned face without an eyes, and shoes and hats and all kinds of fun stuff, and gloves. So we're going to be doing a lot of clothing this week, maybe into next week. I don't know. I don't want to rush it. I'm not in any grand hurry. But here's what it looks like when it's done. It's got the name card, which I probably won't be using because I don't go into name cards that often, but we've got what looks like could be a real fun thing to finish. No back wall, but we have a floor and a bookcase. So I might even be able to combine this. The scales are slightly off. This is 1/6 scale, and this is 1/8 scale, and my Stan Arts Lab is 1/6 scale. So the equipment wouldn't quite match up, but we're going to have some fun, I think. I'm going to start with the big stuff. We're going to start with the floor and the bookcase. Do what I do when I'm starting a kit this size, and that is the halves. Put like the front half and the back half of the arms together. Do a lot of sub-assemblying before we get too far into the rest of it. This has got a really neat feature in that the way they've displayed the hand and the wrist, this wrist being supposedly invisible, we have a hand floating in midair off of a band-aid, off of a piece of bandage, which is fun. First round of construction is complete, and I am starting to look at stage 2 now. We've got a bunch of furniture over here that's on one hand. On the other hand, we've got the character. And I'm just doing some research here because what we've got is a situation where we're going to have to paint and finish up the pants before we can attach them to this jacket. We're also going to have to paint the inside of the jacket before we can paint the lining, before we can finish construction, which is not optimal. It's not how I like to work. We certainly can do it. I prefer being able to put things together and then paint them, because you're always going to end up messing up your paint with a further process down the line when you are still completing your construction. So this just means we have to be more careful. Going ahead, I'm looking at really what I have to worry about, and I could tell you that my my test fitting is showing me that I don't need to worry about any seams in these pants above this point. Above where the jacket hits it, I only have to worry about this seam right here. Of course, I have to worry about the whole inseam, but the whole of the out of it, I could care less about this. The whole rest of that. Don't waste your time on it, because you're going to end up covering it with this. And why would you spend your time sanding seams that you're not going to see when you've got plenty of seams that you are going to see to worry about? See, I don't like the idea of having to build this jacket in place and then cleaning up like that outside seam there. That's going to have to be cleaned up once it's already glued into place, sort of like that. I would much rather do that separately, but we're not going to have that luxury. So by the time we do that, and we put this side of the jacket in, any of the inside, or the lining of the jacket, or the pants, or even this inner jacket, are going to have to be painted in advance. So we have to start thinking about what color those need to be. When it comes to seams in your garment, this is a natural seam in your garment, but that doesn't mean it isn't going to. It doesn't mean you shouldn't show up and clean that up. We're going to have a natural seam around where the sleeve goes in. I am not going to try to blend that. That's a natural garment sleeve. These guys, though, would have to be cleaned up. So we can do a staging of cleaning up before we get to putting the arms in place. Hello, good morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, day 2 on the Invisible Man. And, you know, some people use the word excuse too liberally. I prefer the term opportunity. Having this kit is an opportunity to make up some, or to use some paint colors that I don't normally use, because we've got books we've got to paint, we've got furniture we've got to paint, we've got clothing we've got to paint. Now the only thing that I know that I want to make a specific color at this point, outside of the gloss black shoes, I already know that. The jacket, the coat, the overcoat, the wool coat, could easily be this, make sure I'm in camera, could be the army gray, the olive drab that is in the illustration. It could also be the warm gray, almost into, well, what would you call that? It's almost a khaki. It's definitely not green in the painted example. Now I've noticed both choices, and both times they've gone with brown pants. I'm not going to do brown pants, and I'll tell you why I'm not going to do brown pants. Because I've got a brown floor. I've got a brown wooden floor that I know should be brown and wooden. It's not a painted floor. It's just a plain old plank floor. And then I've got brown shelves. Now you can make an argument for painting these a different color. Although I'm going to do a dark walnut on both the shelves and the table, because I think it'll make the items on the shelves and the table stand out more if they're a darker brown. So we've got that going for us. So why would I put brown in the figure? I've got an opportunity if not an excuse, to do a different color. I kind of like the idea of the army jacket, the khaki green, with a maybe some sort of flourishy color as a liner. But the way this thing needs to be built, it wants to be built in such a way that you're taking the pants and you're putting the back of the jacket on like that, and then you're building around it like that, which means we're going to have an issue when it comes to cleaning up that seam, because this, like I said yesterday, is already in place. So what I want is a color that I can hide, a seam in, and if it's a gloss or a satiny sheen, it becomes harder to hide the seam in that. So if we went with that green and then we cleaned this area, we're going to have to clean that seam up. I cannot put, I was looking for a way to put this jacket together as one piece and then slide the pants up into it. And the only way to do that would be if I cut the top of this piece off. If I cut the top of that nib off of there, then I could build the jacket as a three-piece thing. Still leave the arms off, because like I said yesterday, those arm seams are baked into the jacket design, so we can get away with that. But if I were to do this in such a way that I put the jacket together and then slid the pants up into it, I would still be a little bit at a loss when it came to put this front piece in, because it needs to be, I can't do that. I can't build the jacket separately. I kind of have to build it in place, and I really don't want to do that. I really want to build it separately and then slide these parts together. I'm just not seeing a way to do that unless we do some altering here. If I built the jacket, let me see if that's worth it. If I built the jacket as the four pieces that go into it like that, I could still slide the legs up only if I cut these two channels. If I cut these two channels like that, and I cut this piece off right here, then I could slide that up till it met those pegs. Is that worth my time? It certainly makes the construction of the jacket easier. That means all I have to do is these four pieces, which allows me to clean up those seams. I like that. Now, what do we do about the head? The head wants to be pushed down and put in like that. I can do that once the jacket is built. Is that the way to go? Because that wants to sit. See, that head wants to sit way back in there. It wants to sit in there like that, which I can do even if that's already in place. So, something to think about. This works a treat. I've taken the three parts of the jacket, glued them together, and this seam in particular, you just kind of have to glue a little bit and work it all the way down to get it into place. Now, I've obviously not done any sanding to it yet. It'll take maybe a little bit of plastic putty in that seam, because it's so straight. If it had been, curved like that, then you could have justified it as a seam in the garment and gotten away with it, maybe not filling it in. but you got to, because it's a straight up and down seam and doesn't follow the flow of the jacket. So we're going to sand that in, and again, see, I can work on this in the plastic stage. I haven't even primed it yet, but I can work on this in the plastic stage, work that seam in, do all my puttying, and then prime the whole jacket as one piece. The fun part is when you do this. See, this is the waistcoat part. The vest, you just take this and spread it a little bit, and it'll fit in just like that. So that fits in, and I don't have to glue this yet, even while I'm working on the jacket. But then the legs, because I've got these slots cut in, and I've taken that top off of the back, now it just simply slides up in place, and I can check the placement by looking through the armhole, and there, it's in place. And I can work on the pant legs separately. I can keep them out and clean. I can work on the vest and the tie and the shirt. I can work on all of that separately, and I can, more importantly, clean these seams up. Now, if I wanted to, I could put these arms in at this point and just make the whole jacket done, and I probably will, but I want to clean these seams up first before it's particularly in the armpit area there. I'm not going to do anything, like I said yesterday, I'm not going to do anything with the actual seam where the sleeve joins the jacket, but this seam right in here, that's going to need some puttying and some care and some filler primer. But yeah, I think that's a much more logical way to go than to use the build it in place instructions that they give you in the instructions. I have put a bit of the old Tamiya plastic putty down that seam, give it a chance to cure up, and then we'll sand it and put some primer on this jacket, and set that over there for right now. I've also started working more on the bandages. I've got the bandage and the wrist coming out of the head here. Now this head is not glued in there. I can go ahead and put some primer on that, and I can go ahead and prime this as well, and you also need to prime this right hand or this right arm sleeve to see if that, because I'm not quite convinced that I've got this seam smoothed out, and it's easier to tell once you've got some primer on it if there's anything else that needs to be done to it. So I can get some primer on that. I'm lining up stuff here that I can prime all at once and kind of be done with. I mean, I can prime it and set it aside so that I can go on to the next item. I'm just noticing this right hand here that holds the goggles is I never did sand that, so I need to go ahead and sand it, get it ready for priming. I'm thinking of black driving gloves, gloss black driving gloves rather than the off-white, because the white gloves here look an awful lot like the white bandages, and there's a great excuse or a great reason to put a contrasting element in there. If he's got black driving gloves and black shoes, then that kind of starts to make sense of his outfit here. I'm not wild about the mixes of the blues and the browns here. I'm kind of more along the lines of doing it in black and maybe some. I like the color of the green pea coat that he's wearing on the box art. I like that, so I'm trying to think of colors that will play into that more so than the navy blue and khaki pants that he's got in the painted example here. Try to think of things that will show off the bandages. The bandages we know are bandage colored. They're off-white. They're your typical classic mummy colors. They are white with a very light wash on them. So that being something that is a known quantity, we can kind of play off of the things that we have more latitude to work with, given that standard color. Ready, I've got the first primer filler coat on the coat. And I can see where I've got some work to do on this seam here. And I've got some work, not so much to do on that side, but I do have just a wee bit of work there to do. So I'm going to let that cure. Still kind of sticky. And then we'll come back and touch the seam there. And then we'll think about adding the other sleeve. But for right now, we're just going to let that sit and dry. I'm starting to work with some stains on the wood of the floor. Give it a nice brighter wood. Of course, I have to be careful not to get anything on this carpet here, but this is really letting the wood grain, which has been nicely sculpted or nicely put into the pattern there. So we're going to let that kind of feed into those creases and settle in, and then we might give this another coat after this has had a chance to dry. Try to get some variation in the different boards, lighters and darkers, things like that. I've also taken the opportunity and the drill or the Proxon files, circular file, just to go in and kind of accentuate some of the lines on the bandages and rough that up a little bit. Now, the bandages, this is not the mummy. The mummy, you have thousands of year-old bandages that should be rotting and all of that. This guy's got brand new bandages, so they should be fairly clean and bright. You figure the guy's got, you know, a brand new antiseptic roll. He's not going to pick 1,000-year-old bandages to wrap himself with, so it's going to be fairly bright and clean. As a matter of fact, his whole outfit is, you know, he's a fairly natty dresser, as they say. So none of his clothes are going to look aged or ragged or anything. It's just a question of making them look appropriate to what's going on in the rest of the scene. Going rounds and rounds all day with this jacket. I think this is about the third overall attempt of sanding and puttying and then repriming and then puttying and sanding and repriming. I think I'm down to a wonderful spot to close out for today. What I'm going to go ahead and do, now that I've got it ready for probably the last priming, before I put the final color on it, is I'm going to go ahead and put the right sleeve on now. And this area is still rough, but it's going to be, that's about as clean as I need to get it before I put the other sleeve in. So let's do that. Now the sleeve itself is kind of rough, but again, like I said, this will leave room for the last. There we go. We'll put that in there. And the last puttying and or priming is ready to go. I think what I need to have done that I did not do is I need to rough up the area where the arm sleeve attaches. Let's get a rougher sandpaper because it needs to bond to the plastic, not to the primer. Okay, so we're just going to lay that in. That's what I need to do. I can do it from the inside here. There we go. So put this back here. There. So that's set in. And then a final sanding on this sleeve and a priming, and it will be ready for top coat. Now that I can see all of my grains, all of my greens together, I like the pant green, and I like the contrast to the inside of the peacoat green. The vest, I think, needs to be either really, really dark, almost like a jade green, or not a jade, but a hunter green, just a real dark. Yeah, I think that would do it. Make that a really, really dark green to give me more contrast between all of these different greens. I have to say, I like this idea slightly better than the mishmash of colors that they use in the example, with the brown pants and the blue vest and the gray jacket and all that. I just like them. I like him better when he's more coordinated. Maybe that's my poor sense of taste or not, or what, but I like that better. So I think what I'd like to do is to take this green that I started with and mix a little black into it and repaint that vest tonight before I close up. That's an easy thing to do. And then that kind of feeds into the black tie and the black shoes and the black driving gloves. I think that will solidify his look a little more. Morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Wednesday already. Man, this week is flying by. And painting is continuing on the Invisible Man. Doing some greens today. I'm still playing with the tones and the intensities, maybe is the right word for the greens. Now I say that to say that I look at these black shoes. Yeah, I start with that because I know the shoes want to be black. I know they want to be glossy black patent leather shoes. Again, the way this guy is dressed is not that of a poor man. So he's got the black shoes. Now these are the green pants. Now I've done several passes on this. It may look like one color. It is in fact several. It's a base green with a darker shadowing into the creases and then down towards the pant leg. Some shadowing in there, and then I take the highlight color and then I go over the broad areas or the lighter areas again. So we start with that, and we get the feet on this kit are at a weird angle. It's not quite what you would expect, pigeon toe or a V-shaped stance to be. It's kind of like both the feet are going the same direction. But there you go. And there's no pegs holding those in place, which I find odd. So there we've got his, from the waist down, we've got him. I'm working on the coat, which the collar of the coat, the outer pea coat, is part of the vest piece. So I kind of have to paint one, tape it off, and paint the other. But that's going to go on there like that. And we can see I've already got a contrast between the pant color, yes, the shoes fell off, between the pant color and the vest. Now the vest has got a slightly bluish green cast to it, but that's completely accidental. So we put that to the side. The big news is I'm working on his coat at the same time, and the coat is more of a sky gray-ish green. There's a color in the Tamiya paints. It's called Sky, which is actually a light green, and that's kind of where we're at here. So by the time we take all of these parts, I don't want to do that because the paint isn't dry yet, but we can see we've got a lighter coat here. This is the accent color of the lapel, which matches the same color as that collar. And it's the same color as this accent stripe that goes around the back. And I've done the same thing where I've taken the darker color, made that my shadow, painted the lighter colors over top of it slightly. And, I might have to go back and forth over them a couple times to reinforce the shadow from the highlight. And we get something that looks like this. I think I'm ready to put a matte coat clear on this and lock these colors in, and I think that's really where we are. The other thing that I've done this morning is I've started doing some wood painting, and that's basically using the Model Air mahogany, gone over the table and the bookcase, and doing it unevenly like that on purpose to give it more depth and more dimension rather than trying to put a flat color over it. It just makes it more visually interesting. And then I've gone over the tabletop with a gloss of the sepia shade to give it a little bit more of a warm color. I'm still working on these. There's going to be some multi-layered of browns and glazes on that. I've got the documents there masked off so that when I pull that tape off, those will still be white. But by going into that and putting several layers down, you build up a more rich color than if you just went in one time with a big old rattle can and just sprayed it. That would give you, a nice color, a flat color, but it wouldn't give you any of the dimension that you're looking for. Oh, here was another thing. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. But here was another thing that it's bugging me, but there's no way around it because that's what it is. It is what it is. Is this floor? To me, the rug should be dimensional. It should be sitting on top of the floor. It shouldn't be on the same plane of existence as the floor unless it is a piece of paper laying on the floor. I mean, even these little bits of broken glass, which I'm supposing are supposed to be broken glass from the flask on the table, have dimension. We have negative carving. I mean, we have negative dimension because we have nail heads and we have wood grain. And then we have this pattern of a carpet. I don't know why. It wouldn't have taken them any more tooling or any more time, really, to have put this same pattern but raised the whole rug up just, 1 or 2 millimeter. Just make it a rug that's got this pattern on it and not making it the same height as the floorboards. And that's my pedantic rant for this morning. Okay, so even though I've done what I would normally consider the final pass of paint on this jacket, I'm still not quite happy with some of these seams. They didn't really jump out until I put the satin coat on the coat. They weren't that noticeable. And I'm learning to realize the fact that if it's never too late to fix a seam. If I don't like it, I shouldn't just go, oh, ho-hum, I'll get over it and go on. I need to go back and fix the bloody thing. And these seams are a wonderful opportunity to address that. So, yeah, we're going to let these dry. We're going to let the Tamiya putty dry. And then we'll go back and lightly sand it and we'll paint over top of it again. I am working at, when I do this though, I want there to be a color break between the bandage and the shirt. So that's why I'm cheating the shirt just a little bit into the cream color or the ivory color to just break it up a little bit from that. And I think I'm going to go with a dark burgundy tie. I was toying with the idea of making it a black tie, but then I realized I'm getting too much black in here. So let's see what happens when we use this Vallejo game color Rojo Escarlata or Scarlet Red. And to get the tiny brush out. We're just going to paint a really deep red tie in there. I think it's a well-needed pop of color, even though it's a dark and muted color. But we've had so many. It's monochromatic. It's all in the green family. It's one color. So something in there that will allow me to, now this is something that they didn't put, I hate when they do that, they didn't put it in the sculpt. And that is, this is not a clip-on tie, this is an actual tie around the necktie, and they never put the side bits of the material in the sculpt. They just put the tie as if it were a clip-on. So this is going to take a couple coats to get over. Okay, I don't like it. I'm trying to fix it. It looks like an escape from a Grateful Dead concert. It looks too tie-dyed. And that is the nature of the weave of it. It's giving me this radial, the pattern in the sculpt, the pattern in the part, is giving me radial vibes that look like a bad tie-dye job. So I'm trying to think of some way to mitigate that. You know, I'm looking at the sample again. It looks a whole lot more dimensional there than what I've got with just those two colors. Almost as if part of it was flocked, but I'm not going to, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. But it is giving me dimensional vibes that are just not there in the sculpt. So maybe the colors are off. Maybe I gotta walk away from it and come back and see if that's what it's the sunniness of it. Maybe that's the idea, is that it looks too much like a sun. Even if I put the table on top of it, it's still too much. So, okay, change of color. I got rid of that berry color, and then putting the brown wash over it. I'm liking this a lot better. It's not quite as sunshiny, not quite as purple hazy, not quite as Grateful Dead as it used to be. So I'm kind of liking that. I might play with it just a little bit more, maybe put another wash over top of it. But I think we've got a good compromise now. Plus, by the time you put the table over it, yeah, I'm living with that. I maybe want to do something more to define the outer edge of it, but I'm living with that. I've got probably the last round on the jacket. I did touch up some more of that, more of the seam that I thought needed taking care of. I've got the vest where I'm happy. I may repaint that tie. I might do something. I was playing with an idea of making like a silk highlight on it. I don't know how successful that was. We might revisit that. Happy with the head and the hand there. So yeah, it's starting to come together. I think tomorrow we should be able to lock down most of the body and get back onto painting some of the books and other accoutrements. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend. And I am looking forward to finishing up the man himself today, if not the kit. I will get onto the lab equipment and all that stuff today, but and a lot of these glass clear bits will end up staying just clear. I don't think I'm going to try to paint anything, but getting them put together and maybe getting some clear paints on them will be the order of the day. But I want to get him done and off the table is what I'm saying. And I'm pretty close to having that happen. I am working on the goggles. I've drilled out, they look stupid now because I've drilled them out and I've put microcrystal clear in the holes, and that's going to dry clear, which will give me the clear goggles. And I'm working on the chest piece, which is this thing. I think I'm finally happy with the colors on it. It is going to go into the jacket, which is the sticking point. I like this jacket. I put a flat coat on it this morning. I'm happy with it. It still has some ugly seams. I've gotten to the point. Yeah, I've gone over this like 3 or 4 times, and I've gotten to the point of diminishing returns, I feel. So we're going to call it a happy jacket and be done with it and just put the rest of it together. Okay, I caved. I painted the buttons gold. What the heck? I wanted to do his cufflink gold, and while I was there, I decided to do the vest buttons in gold. It's just a nice little accent. Not too blingy, but it's a nice little bit. Now we've got a lot of construction done. It's been a long time getting here. We've got the head in. We've got the vest, the chest piece in. We've got the wrapped around bandage that goes to the back of the arm and to this, which needs to be touched up. But it's looking a little bit more dynamic now. We'll go ahead and put the other wrist in, and we'll use a bit of CA for that. Not my preference to use CA on styrene, but in this instance we're fine because the joint is so deep in that wrist that we really don't have to worry too much about it slopping out. But we're almost ready to put the pants on him, and that will essentially finish him up. There's some touching up of the paint that needs to get done, obviously, on the cuff and some other bits, but I think I'd rather get him all together and then do the touching up all at once. Okay, the gentleman is finished up pretty much. I'm starting to work on the accoutrements. I've been spraying the clear, Tamiya clears on the sides of the parts. We'll see how well they go together. I just couldn't abide all those bottles being clear. Working on some of the other things. Some of these are going to be clean, but a lot of them are not. And also starting to work on the books, that kind of stuff. You know, once you put them in the shelf, are you really going to see anything other than the fronts? But I'll know it's there. Things like that, yeah. I think it's a good stopping point and a good. Oh, the goggles are clearing up. That's the starting to dry, or the cure on the microcrystal clear. Hopefully those will be done by the end of the day. Yeah, we're just doing a little dry brushing on the skull, and like I said, filling in the set dressings. I'm back from lunch and I'm very sad. It turns out that our local hobby shop is closing, and I mean like right away, pretty darn quickly. I was alerted to this just last night. I found out about this. I went by the hobby shop, and yeah, the shelves are picked over. The discount is 20%. I did need to get some paint. This is a bit of a blow, because this is the place that I go to when I need to get provisions. I don't necessarily go there for the models per se. But if I need to get a Tamiya, or if I need to get some styrene or some CA or some sheet stock or evergreen tube, any of that, that's my go-to shop, and it's gone. It won't be there much longer, and I'm sad. Well, I finally have a rug that I like, but I had to break my own rule to, well, not rule so much as internal guideline. I had to go against my wishes to get it done. I really didn't want to put any more green into the scene other than what's on the dude, and it just kind of asked for it, because I was using all these other harvest / nature colors in the rug. It kind of wanted to have a green in it. So what I was missing in this, and I still am to an extent, is I was missing a dark delineation between the rug and the floor. Because it's carved into the same piece of plastic, we're just not seeing what I was hoping to see as far as a definite break between the two. I'm even going to try this to see if it would pay. I'm thinking a black wash, maybe a black wash around those those fringes on the outside. Let's just see. Just around the outside edge of the rug, just to give me something that makes a break between the wood pattern and the rug pattern. You know, that's not horrible. That's not terrible at all. I either needed to go very light, very dark, or very light as a outline around this. I was thinking at one point of doing a gold tassel, like maybe the rug had a gold edge on it. Maybe this is all it takes, is just a black line around it, almost like a shadow line. That's not horrible. Let's try that out for the size for the rest of the rug. Now I'm pondering here as I'm painting, as I want to do, and I'm thinking about what a missed opportunity Moebius did when they made this kit. Now, it's true that a lot of these beakers and bottles wouldn't have labels on them. They would just be, plain old bottles, unless the good scientist had decided to write down whatever fluid was in it. But some of these bottles are quite obviously liquor bottles or product bottles, whether it's ammonia or whatever. And it's kind of a lost opportunity. I don't necessarily mean they had to make a decal sheet with labels on it, because that could be expensive. I can understand you don't want to, if you're just making one or two labels, then it's not really worth the process of labor and design and printing and all that for the decal sheet. But they really missed an opportunity, I think, because they had full color printed instructions that they couldn't have made room on them somewhere. I mean, look at all this blank space on the sheet. They couldn't have printed. I mean, just even something down in here where they couldn't have printed the label as part of the instructions, and then you could cut them out and stick them down on the bottles if you were of a mind to do that. I think that was a missed opportunity on their part, because none of these bottles are that difficult. I mean, it's not that convoluted of a shape that they couldn't have just made like a straight old, even if it's just an oval that you cut out and stuck on the front of the bottle. I think that really could have bumped up the interest in the kit a little bit at minimal outlay for them. But, such is life. I've just gone through and taken some clear varnish, and I'm popping out things like these bits of broken glass on the floor. I don't know if you could see the reflection of them in the light, but those bits of broken glass there, and touching up things like glossing his buttons, and put a little gloss on his tie to make it look like a silk tie. Things like that. And now I think I want to play with the semi-transparent varmints that are in the terrarium here. Morning, everybody. How you doing? It's Friday. It's the last work day of the week. The last work day on the Invisible Man. As you can see, he's turned completely invisible. He was here a minute ago. No, he's standing right over there. He's ready. He's ready for his to be put on the base, but really the base is what I've got to work on. But I wanted to catch you up on this. These are the goggles that I drilled out yesterday, and I put some microcrystal clear in, and they have cleared up. Now I'm going to tint these with a dark green. I'm going to tint these with a clear green Tamiya, and then I'm going to see how that looks. And then I'm thinking what I might do is go over top of that with the doming resin and make the lenses just pop out a little bit more. But the first thing I want to do is put a drop of green to me a clear in each one of those lenses and see how that looks. I've already gotten it out and shooken it up. I've got a pick of tooth here to distribute. And we're going to do this on camera, believe it or not. Well, if we get it in front of the camera, maybe. Here we go. Come on. Oh, it's a lot thicker than I thought it was. I may have to dilute that a bit. I'm trying to be very careful not to poke through the microcrystal clear because I believe it to be very thin. Let's get out in front of the camera. There you go. Very thin in the centers. Yeah, maybe let's get this let me see. Give me a brush with some water. Thin that out. Like I said, I really don't want, that's what I want there. I don't want it to break the membrane there of the microcrystal clear. I'm just pushing this bubble of paint around. See, then once this is painted, I will cured, I will go in and touch up the gold around the lens. Okay, and that completes pretty much him. Everything else is, we're letting that dry, everything else is set dressing and accoutrement and things like that. I tried a thing last night and it seems to have worked. I'm trying to do his glass of booze right here, which is sitting on top of his note of some sort. And what I did was I just took some of that sepia stain and I just dropped it in the glass and I'm letting it dry. And let's see if it did dry overnight. It's had all night to do so. It's still kind of liquidy. We'll let that sit. Maybe by the time the weekend's over, that will be completely dry. But it looks like a nice glass of booze there. And let's see, we've got the see-through rats here. Got the see-through frog there. I'm wondering, since this is an open container, I'm wondering if I couldn't pour in, and it's closed on the bottom, if I just whipped up a bunch of epoxy and submerged that frog down into it, whether that could be fun. Just fill it like halfway up with a little tinted of a bluish green epoxy or something, and drop the frog down in it. That could be fun. And that could be setting up all day while I'm doing the rest of this. And really, it's just going to be a question of taking each stack of books and each group of bottles and finishing them and setting them aside and saying you're done and moving on to the next thing. I've been bouncing all over, doing little bits here and there, and you know, that's fun, but it doesn't actually ever finish anything. So I need to work something until it's finished and then move on to the next thing. Like this stack of books, I would say is 80% finished, but it's, you know, I need to go through and put the details on it. Like I want to put some little gold stripes on these books and things like that. So we're going to take one piece at a time. We're going to move the things off the table that I'm done with. Well, the blue didn't work exactly as I was hoping. I was wanting a more of a clear, like a wash, and it came out solid. So I went back and made another batch for the frog to sit in. That's just plain clear epoxy. But I didn't let it go to waste. I did make a glass of blue milk out of it. You can see what I was talking about. I wanted something that would be a little bit more see-through than that. But having a glass of blue milk up here next to his glass of booze is perfectly fine. But you can see the invisible. Well, you can't see the invisible frog. The invisible frog is in the beaker now full of epoxy. And then we've got the invisible mice next to it. I got to do something more with the dry brush pass on the wood chips there. And then we'll be ready to start filling in. I think just easier just to work one shelf at a time. Just work your way down from the top and go that way. Decide what's going to be in each shelf. Fix that shelf and then go on to the next thing. First of all, pardon the sound of commerce in the background, but I've got orders to fill. I'm putting together the stuff that goes on the table, and I'm using the picture as a reference for making sure I'm using all the same parts. That's a lot of stuff on the table, including the fake nose, which I didn't notice until just today, that there was a fake nose as a part there. I think it's a little small, to tell you the truth, but we'll put it on there anyway. I don't know. I'd have to check the movie. A glass, mortar, and pestle. I can see a glass mortar, or no, the pestle, which one is which? I can see doing this in heavy glass, but you put something something you want to crush in a bowl, and I have a feeling, unless that's really hot tempered glass, that's going to break. And plus, it's just an opportunity to use a color. I'm going to make that a stone mortar and pestle, because I think the stone would be more appropriate. Plus, it gets me another color here, even though these are one piece each, and there's no, part line to hide. I still think I'd rather paint those gray and make it a stone mortar and pestle. So I am taking a break in plotting, so I wanted to catch you up. I've got everything on the table that is going on the table done, and that's in the other room drying. Again, that's off of my plate so that I don't get unnecessarily confused and befuddled by it. I've got the top shelf, only the good liquor. I've got the top shelf of the bookshelf done, and I've got the skull put in place. Kind of like him at that jaunty angle. So that much is done. And I'm working my way down the second shelf, and they've got a lot of the, see, there's the skull, and then there's the big line of books. And the big line of books is here, and I'm working on that bit by bit, painting in some details. I think I want to put a wash over that before I am done, before I pop it into place. I need to make sure I left enough room. Did I leave enough room? I might have to move this down to the next shelf. I think I will. I'll move it down to there because I put the skull over too far and therefore don't have room for it. Okay, so we are done. We're mostly done. Well, we're done with everything except nailing the parts down to the base. And I'm playing with different orientations and different setups and different, different how-do-you-dos on it. And it struck me I wasn't liking really a lot of them. And then it hit me, no one says that table has to be on the rug. That's, I think, what was throwing me. Is trying to fit the table on the rug and then finding a good balance of everything else with it. And you look at, this is how it looks in the instructions. And you notice how it all kind of goes up like that at that angle. The design kind of swoops up like that, or the mise en scene. And it made it very top heavy over here, and I didn't care for that. And I thought maybe I would like it better if he was more centralized, and it wasn't a case of everything being weighted to this side of the display. So by making him centralized and changes his angle just a little bit, and putting him on the rug rather than the table, I like that better. I think it's got more balance. Now, I can go one way or the other about this bookcase being either on this side and then move the books over to here and put the bookcase here, but then the bookcase is too close to the table. So that's why I'm kind of moving that out. Now, I'm not using the name plaque. I'm not using the Invisible Man name. I didn't even paint it. This guy. You know how I feel about name plaques. So I'm not using that. So without using that, that makes the stack of books that's meant to go behind it kind of odd. And you just have a stack of books that's meant to be sort of like the thing that goes in front. Sorry, the stack of books is made to be used as the you prop up the name plaque on that. So if you don't use that, do you really need to use the stack of books? Yeah, I still like it. I still like it. It's not going to hurt anybody to leave it out there because we've got other stacks of books aplenty here. So I can put that at a nice angle there on the floor. I just need to make sure that all 4 of the feet of the bookcase are on the base. So we slide him something like that. And the other thing was what to do with the hat. The hat was kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, but it's just laying there on the floor. In here, it's just laying there on the floor under the table. It's not necessarily a bad idea. I just propped mine so where it looks more natural that the gravity is curving the bottom of the brim and it's kind of resting where it is. Makes a little bit more sense, I think. But we've got the table here, and by not putting it on the rug, I think we can get away with a little more spacing it out, so to speak. See, there's how the hat wants to lay in front of it. We bring him up just a wee bit, and then we have the we still have the bookcase to the back of it. Now, yeah, you have to look around him to see the goodies in the bookcase, but the bookcase, it's not called, the model is not called the Invisible Bookcase. It's a nice bit of set decoration, but it's not why we're here. It's not why we've gathered you here today. So I'm kind of digging this and making his hand the star. Now, what do you think? I like it, and maybe it's because I'm left-handed that I wanted to see it slightly rearranged. Maybe this is more of a left-handed display. I like this. Again, it gets the table off of the rug, but it brings the bookcase down in such a way that it's not hard to see the little creatures on the top. You get to see some of the nice work that went into the bookcase. It does diminish the specialness of the table a little bit, but I think I can live with that. I just need to make sure that it is everything is within the plane of, if I stuck, let me see if I get a piece of cardboard here. Let me see. If I just stuck a piece of wall behind that, I would need to make sure the table isn't, or even the bookcase, nothing is behind the plane of the wall, just so I could slide it up against the wall if I wanted to, when I put it on the shelf. I don't want to have, like, the bookcase hanging off the back or the table bumping up against it. So if it's something like that, I just have to I need something stiffer than this. Here we go. Piece of cardboard here. Yeah, see, this table is too far back, or too far forward. Bring it up to there. Make sure the bookcase, make sure that table is up there. Okay, so we did that. That puts our invisible gent front and center. Makes him much more the center of attention, as he should be. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the rest of this is all set dressing. So we do that, and maybe leave his hat back under behind him. What do I think of that? I like it from that angle too. And here we have it. This is the final pose for the Invisible Man. Of course, you have this back. This is what you would put, you know, I mean, if you're going to take this to a show and you're putting it on a table, then you can still see some attractive things happening on the back of this model build. But it's designed to be, you know, looked at from the front, obviously. The biggest flaw with this kit, I mean, it's the limitation. It's all of those clear bottles and everything that have two parts to them. You're not going to be able to hide that seam. Even if you printed those in clear, you're never going to be able to get them that clear. So it's kind of, it is what it is, and you make the best of it. I tried to hide the seams where I could. Tried to make a good view where if you look at it from that angle, you're not seeing any of the seams. You're looking straight, you know, all the seams are running this way, or they're running perpendicular to your point of view. So you're not seeing the bottle seams. So from one angle, it looks really nice. But from other angles, you can see the joins in those clear parts. But you can see the light shining through his goggles there where I cut those out and redid the lenses. And then we have our invisible critters here, or mostly invisible critters, and the glass of blue milk. Probably the ugliest bottle in here is this one. There's just no real good, there's probably the best angle on that. But yeah, I hope you don't mind the liberties I took with this kit. I don't think I painted anything outside of the white bandages. I don't think I painted anything like the example in the brown floor. But yeah, it's a fun kit. It's a lot more complicated than you'd think it would be by the time you get all the accoutrements in there. But if you are looking for a figure that you can paint, that you don't have to worry about painting the eyes, here you go. He don't have eyes. Even the skull in the cabinet doesn't have eyes. So there you go. And that's going to bring us to the end of Spooky Week. Now, we're still smack dab in the middle of October. We might have room for another Spooky Week before all said and done. I had another figure that I was thinking of doing, and I might just go ahead and do that for next week's, just to get Spooky Week, Spooky Season Part 1, Spooky Season Part 2. But I think I might do that. It's going to be after I'm still recuperating from that Independence Day attacker. I need to do small things with limited scope, shall we say. So until next week, y'all be good, be safe, be smart, be kind, build a model, and be back next week.